Okay, Pro Bs once again. Remember, subscribe, and I'm delighted to be joined for the first time by former world champion and boxing pundit Supremo, Mr. Barry Jones. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you keeping? You okay?
I'm keeping well, man. But you know, I had to say Supremo. I had to make sure that I got that in.
I thought you were mistaken with somebody else when you said that.
Love the banter already. Love the banter already. Now look, it's been quite a while. I think the last time I saw you was in New York in the sandwich shop for
Yeah,
Crawford
that's
versus
right.
Hearn.
Yeah,
That long
yeah.
ago. What was that? 2019?
It seems longer, but it was 2019. Yeah,
Oh
but
wow.
seems like 10 years ago, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think it was a great build-up, for that fight. I thought that night I witnessed in the flesh for the first time. I witnessed greatness. I thought Terence Crawford that night was so good. I mean, it's just the punch
Do you know
variety, everything.
what you said about in the flesh? It's like people who don't go to live shows or don't get to sit closer won't realize what you mean by that. But to see someone in the flesh perform, it's some because you see the little intricate movements they make. Because on TV, you don't always see the feet and the hands at the same time, or you're almost directed to what you have to look at by the camera. They're giving you the best. Sometimes it's better to watch a fight at home actually, but to see the little bits, the little things that you miss out on, you can only see close up. I flew to Oakland, San Francisco, to watch Andre Ward versus Paul Smith. Like,
Yep.
Paul's a lovely guy. I'm not that friendly with Paul. I mean, he's a nice guy. I'm not friendly with him, but I mean, we're not mates or anything. And it wasn't so much to see Paul. It was just I didn't think Andre Ward was going to box too much longer, and I thought I'm not going to get an opportunity to see him live. So I flew on my own to San Francisco, caught a taxi across the bridge to Oakland, stayed in a hotel, watched him, and flew home the next day. And I'm glad I did. Luckily I got ringside seats, thanks to the Smiths, actually, the brothers, and to watch him, the little movements he makes with his feet that you don't see on telly. And I just thought, Paul Smith was never going to be a trouble for him, but still to see how he goes about his work was watching a modern great, I think, and Andre Ward do his. And when you said that about Terence Crawford, it is that you've got to be there live, haven't you, and close to see the brilliance of what they do, because we take it for granted on watching on TV. You don't always see it, and yeah, I'll drag this point on.
Nice. You know what? It's an interesting conversation. I think, at that time, I think there was a lot of talk about him having that Spence fight against Spence Jr. Sorry, Crawford versus Jr. Spence Jr. Sorry. We still haven't had that fight yet. It looks like it's not going to happen anytime soon. It keeps dragging on. They really need to get it together. We need these big fights, Barry.
We do, because Terence Crawford's brilliant and Spence is brilliant in different ways. Of course, I think Crawford's more athletic, Spence is more structured, but they're not young. I don't know Spence is, but Crawford's like 32 now, I think. So, he's young in this generation of boxing, but he's not we tend to think that he's 25, don't we, for some reason, but the younger time inside, and I think he's definitely, he knows his worth, or he believes what he thinks his worth is, and he won't falter from that. So I can respect that, but that might be the stumbling block for the fight. And also, Bob Arum at the minute, with the way he's talking about his fighters, that fight might happen because he might let Crawford go, and Crawford might walk across the road to PBC, and that fight's easy to make. That's the truth of it. Boxing's such a fickle sport. And one minute, you're aligned with one guy, next minute then he elbows you out because you got beat, or you become a star and you get rid of that guy, and that's how it works. So it's a sport for constantly surprising us. So even though that fight looks a million miles away, in this crazy sport, it could be their very next fight. That's how.
You never know. You never know. And the pandemic showed us that, look, time waits for no man. We don't know what's around the corner. So let's have these big fights as soon as ASAP.
Well, if they were easy to make, if money was never an issue, these fights were easy to make. It's the greatest sport on the planet, because you would have just quality fights every minute. But I think we'll look back at this era and think, we did see some fantastic fights. The thirst we have for constantly wanting. The problem is with social media and everything, things are so much more accessible that more than ever before, today's news is forgotten tomorrow, quicker than ever, because we're on to something else. And it might not be a big fight, but we're on because you know, with constant news streams like yourself, you're always looking for new news that we almost forget about what happened 2 weeks ago in a great fight, or last month. Whereas years ago, we could dine out on that forever, and fights were not so quickly made, and we weren't having boxing every week. So quality fights were made, but you know, there were still big gaps between them. Now we can play more because we're not used to having these massive gaps between fights, and we think we deserve better. We're in a generation now, all of us, of demand now. We don't wait anymore. We don't wait. We're an X Factor generation. We don't do our apprenticeship now. We want what we want now. Why should we wait for the big fight? I think so. I think we're spoiled a little bit now. That's all. So we'll look back at this generation and go, actually, we did see some fantastic fights, some great fights. And if Joshua Fury gets made, well, that's a big fight. No, and it looks like it's going to be made, but it's not. Who knows? But no, we'll look back and think, that would that be made in the 90s? We tend to one of the greatest eras of the heavyweight division, maybe the second best era of the heavyweight division. Would that have been made? I don't know. You know, Bo never boxed Lewis, you know, and you know, Holyfield didn't box Lewis until the 2000s, you know. So you know, we romanticize sometimes about our boxing past.
Yeah, I just want to add to that point about Joshua and Fury. Another 2 weeks. Only bantering.
Until you, even when contracts are signed, it's got to a point now until you see him in the ring. A big fight got announced last night, of course. You know, Canelo and
yes.
Saunders. But until they're in the ring, I get excited about it, about the thought of it, but you can never be sure until they're on their press run, and then you're pretty sure that the fight's happening. But until then, and something like Joshua and Fury, it's so much, because it's not just what the fighters agreeing to fight, or the promoters agreeing to co-promote, or even just the TV companies agreeing to share broadcasting rights. It's so many other things, about the little things, about you know, it trickles down with different people we don't even know who exist. So you know, you're talking hundreds of millions of pounds there, not just for the fighters, but everyone involved. So that'll take a long time to make. But we don't know. They could have been talking. They could have been doing this deal, and actually the deal could have been agreed years ago. We don't know. You know, we're just here second guessing, trying to surmise what's going on, and in reality, none of us got a clue.
All right. You mentioned big fights. Obviously, we've got a segue into that major announcement earlier today. Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders. It will happen May the 8th. Quickly, summarize that performance last night from Canelo against Avni Yildirim.
Professional, like he is always, to be honest. He's the consummate professional. The way he goes about his work in the ring. He could have blasted him out there in the first round, I felt, but he takes his time but he takes his time, but make sure you know who's boss. Put you under pressure. A great fighter makes you feel under pressure without doing anything. And don't ask me how, because I wasn't a great fighter, so I couldn't tell you how. But I've been in against a fighter who's better than me. So not maybe a great. When fighters are much better than you, they put you under pressure without doing nothing. And I've been in that. I've been on the wrong side of that situation, and it's horrible, because you know you have to throw punches, and you're not scared, but you know if you throw, you're gonna get hurt, or if you throw, you're gonna get hit, or whatever. You know, so in the end, you do be abandoned by your work, even though you know you have to do stuff. And that was the same for Yildirim. He knew what he had to do, but he knew that whatever he did, he was going to get counted with something. So I think it was not a great performance by Canelo. It was obvious what was going to happen there, but he was still professional about his work. It was a great finish, you know, and his technique is sublime, and he's just so good. The way he hooks off the jab and feints the jab and hooks, the way he flicks you with a hook and then throws a strong right hand on the pipe. He's always disguising something else with his work. So there's always, you throw one shot, you always know there's something better coming after it. He's so clever. His footwork's brilliant. He's not a dancer or a mover like Billy Joe Saunders, but he slides in out of distance, you know, without you realizing. So he's a short guy, massively small than all these guys he's fighting. But when you're in the ring, you don't notice it. When you're watching, you don't notice how small he is, because he negates that with his beautiful timing, judgment of distance, shot selection, and power and technique. and the power is because of the technique. He's the most rounded fighter on the planet. He might not be the very best in certain areas, but overall the most rounded not athlete, the most rounded boxer we have is him by a million miles.
I must say his IQ is exceptional. You know, all that experience he's picked up in the big fights over the years he's putting it into practice right now. We're seeing a man in his absolute prime. I have to say that.
Well, we say, and it's said a lot now. I like to say I said it first, but I probably never. He's one of the very few fighters in history who learns from every fight, win or lose. Well, he's never lost a fight, but except obviously Mayweather. But actually, that was the biggest lesson he learned. But even the fights that he wins, he adapts and he brings something new to his game every fight. Maybe not the last one actually, because he didn't have to. But when he's in a challenge, he'll learn from what he did. He must go back and study it and go, what did I do wrong? Why did that work? Can I improve on that? And you see the improvements over the years. So we talk about Billy Joe Saunders, and will the slick southpaw with fantastic feet give him problems? And then we all go back to Erislandy Lara, where it was a very close fight, which he could have easily lost. And it was a very close fight that he could have lost. People just say he lost, and you might think he lost, and I wouldn't argue with that. But it was a very close fight. So when the favourite in a close fight is in a close fight, everyone just says he's lost automatically. So, and I'm not quite sure that was the case, but he had mega trouble. But he's not the same Alvarez from 2014. I don't think the Alvarez of today would have trouble with the Lara of 2014. I think he's a different animal now. And it's because of people like Lara. He's learned from that. And that takes, and you mentioned it, you summed it up. What I said in 1,000 words, you summed up in 2, boxing IQ. I should be interviewing you, actually, thinking about it. But it's right. You're spot on. It's boxing IQ. To take that information in, and then digest it, and then perform. Use that in your performance for your next fight. It takes a special athlete in any sport, but particularly in boxing, to do that, and he has. So he hasn't changed his style, but he has all these little adaptations to it. That are just phenomenal. I can see very few flaws, and also he has one of the best, if not the best, chin in the business. So, if he does make a mistake, what does it matter? Because I know if Golovkin can't knock you out and hit you with full-blooded shots, and he can't knock you out, or even knock you back on your heels, then who else is going to do that? And I think that he has that in his, and he doesn't dine out on that. Like another, if I had a great chin, I thought I did have a good chin until I got battered in my last fight. But if I had that sort of chin, or a lot of fighters have had that sort of chin, you just think, after 3 rounds, if it's a close fight, you just go, I'm just going to walk right through him. He still doesn't do that. He doesn't dine out on that ability to absorb pain. He still always tries to be technical and use his brain. Again, like you said, and I said in 1,000 words, boxing IQ.
Do you know what? What I've got to say is, okay, he's fighting Billy Joe Saunders, who is an exceptional fighter when he's on song. The mental side of things, the mind games, right? Now, some might argue that Billy Joe might need to put some of those mind games pre-fight to get into the head of Canelo. You saw against Mayweather. Mayweather's a trash talker. Okay, Canelo was young at the time, but I feel like mentally he kind of unnerved Canelo at the time. And Billy Joe's about that. He can do both. And Fury does the same thing as well. He gets into the head of his opponents. And I believe every factor Billy Joe is going to need in his armory come May the 8th.
Yes, you're right. He'll need everything in his favor. He'll need the perfect fight. He's massively up against this, because you can't hide the fact. There's nothing wrong with that. He's boxing the pound for pound #1 on the planet. But he'll need to do his very best to unsettle him if he can, and right up until literally the ring walk. As he gets in the ring, he should be standing in front of the ring. Well, don't let him in the ring.
Billy Joe can do that.
I remember my father said, well, I've never gone to boxing as him, Hammy, but there was we were on the same weight when I won the world title, and I would have been the perfect opponent for Nas to move up and beat up and then be a 2-weight world champion. And my grandfather's from the Yemen, so there's a Yemeni connection there, and we're hoping that was going to work if I would have been more successful in my title reign. And my father said, just go out there in the first round. If you ever fight him, headbutt him in the first round. Just grab him and go crack. They won't disqualify you because it's too early in the fight. And it might unsettle him enough to give you an opportunity because you sort of know you can't beat him. He's going to batter you. Like, you do your best you can, but there's levels in there to what you can do. And he was a level above. And I think Billy has to not do that, please. But he has to unsettle him the best way he can. And I don't think the trash talk, I don't think that will work now because Canelo's experienced it with Mayweather at a young age where he never knew anything about that. But like as clever as he is in every facet of his game, he's digested that, and I don't think it'll work again. I don't think, and he's an older man as well, so you can laugh things off, and he's more comfortable and confident in his ability, to what he can do. So I think he might get annoyed, but not enough to lose his head. I can't see that unsettles him, but I would keep trying. I most certainly keep trying, and I think for Billy, he has to make it as messy, as scrappy, and as boring as it can possibly be, because the onus is on Canelo. Canelo didn't want to fight, not personally didn't want to fight him, but Canelo's team didn't want to fight Saunders when it was mentioned when he beat Lemieux, because there was no excitement. They didn't think it'd be an exciting fight. They want Canelo as a pay-per-view star, and they wanted to fight something that they wanted him to be in good fights, a fight that he can look good in, not a fight where he has to chase a guy around for 12 rounds and it could be a stinker. They didn't want that, because even though they thought Canelo could beat Saunders, that's no good for his reputation if it's a 12-round ball fest and me running around chasing the guy. But that's not Billy's concern. That's on Canelo. He's the star now in this. All of a sudden, he's the A side. It's his and his team's ability, his job to sell it to the public. It's Billy's job to go there and win at all costs. So anything you can do, whatever, go in there and take the soles off his boots. I say that, you can see Billy and his guys doing that, can you? Literally, nicking his shorts or whatever, whatever works. I think, and that sort of, because on just ability alone, you have to favour Canelo. And you have to. I can't see how you don't. I just can't. Whatever Billy does, good. And by the way, Billy Joe Saunders at his best, and we've only seen him at his best 1 or 2 times in his career, to be honest, but Billy at his best is a beautiful boxer to watch. So clever and tricky for anyone, but I don't know if he's good enough to beat Canelo. I can't see it. I'd love to be able to say different, and I'd love for him to come back, and tell me how wrong and how stupid I am after. I'd love that, but I just can't see it. And I can't see, as you said, he's such a professional, Canelo. I can't see him underperforming. Listen, if he doesn't look bad or uninspired against Yildirim, then he's certainly not going to be that way against. He's not going to take Saunders lightly. He's just not going to do it. So, yeah, I can't see how it happens. But he deserves a shot. Canelo Saunders. That's the only real big fight out there for him. He's well overdue a big fight, because when he hasn't taken that momentum with him from the
move fight, yeah.
Yeah, so thanks. Yeah, thank you. The move fight in 2017, that was his springboard to sell himself to the North American market. He did that tremendously well, and then we didn't see him. And then he boxes Avakov or whatever, and it was that before, I can't remember. But then he boxes Willie Monroe, and they won good fights to watch, and he moved up and boxed that fella from when he boxed in Stevenage. I can't remember his name.
Sufi. Yeah.
Sufi. Yeah, and that wasn't a great performance from him. He won, but he knew the thing I would say with Billy, though, that he performs to the level he's at. He's one of those.
Some people are like that. Yeah.
He's like a top class amateur. That's what they do. Top class amateurs. They box to the level they're in against, and I think he's very much like that. Let's just look at this. This is not testing for me, so I just do enough. And I think he's like that. But against Canelo, it'd have to be the best Billy Joe we've ever seen. And I'm not sure whether we're going to see the best Billy Joe at this stage of his career. With the inactivity and the way he lives his life, I'm not sure. He'll be as fit as he can be. And I think Mark Tibbs in his corner will help him with his structure. So we'll get the best version of Billy Joe today. But I think we could have got a better version of Billy Joe if he would have been more active with more tests in his career up to this point.
It kind of works in both ways. I mean, okay, look, immediately when I looked into the forums after the fight had been announced, I saw a lot of people, you know, his recent performances have not been great. They mentioned the Martin Murray, you can't get rid of Martin Murray, etc., etc. But sometimes, you know, I think a bad performance can kind of bring a false sense of security to the opposition. And you said it yourself, Billy Joe's the type of man that can turn it on the night. You know, he has got that ability. What would you say, Billy Joe? Billy Joe's maintained that he's got the skill set to beat Canelo. Is that just purely based upon how he moves around the ring, in and out of the pocket?
I guess pretty much I would have thought. Yeah, I think Billy's like any real good tactician, has the patience to his work. So sometimes his fight's going to be a bit boring because he won't throw unless he knows he can land. So why would he? So he's that. So I think and Canelo can be similar. So I think it'll be some points will be a standoff. Who's going to go first? Now, Billy might have faster hands actually, and certainly faster feet. You know, up and dancing around. But the great timing outdoes blind speed. That's why Mayweather was always going to be Pacquiao for me because of that reason. But Billy's got good speed, not blind speed. So he has fast hands, but he moves with it. I think for me, the biggest thing for Billy will be that pivot on the front foot, the southpaw stance on the right foot. If he can throw and then pivot, and I don't mean a defensive pivot where it's wide and you go wide away from the target. I mean, you throw the punches quick as you can. And I wouldn't get too greedy with my attacks against Billy Joe Saunders. If you can land with two on Canelo without getting caught back, that's success. And then pivot close to the target, so you're close to the body, so you're there, rather than if you do a wide pivot, you're outside, you're over here somewhere, so you can see me. You're over here, but he can still he could roll and turn with you. It's harder for him to do, but he can do it if you're tight. You can hold him, spin him, push him, and he can't get to you. And I think that the whole frustration part of do that against Canelo would maybe work. I don't know if he could do it because Canelo will just take that step across and that slide across. But I think that's what he has to. I think that for me would be darting him with fast attacks and spinning close to the target, and then just trying to frustrate him, trying to find you, be the matador to the bull. I guess if you want to put an analogy about it, but Canelo's no ordinary bull. That's the problem. He's more than just. You can watch Canelo fights and go out. He just walks forward though, and if you go back in straight lines, then it's easy for him. And I think Saunders not a puncher, but he can demand your respect. So you haven't got to hurt Canelo. You just got to stop him from doing his work. So that's feasibly can happen. But his time is so immense, and that's why whatever I say good about Billy Joe that he could do to win the fight, I automatically think in my back of my head, how Canelo would counteract that. Do you know what I mean? So you know when you're really searching for an answer or a method how someone can win, it's usually a sign that you probably think they can't win. That's if you really have to search for it. I don't think there's not an obvious thing that Saunders will do to beat Canelo. Saying moving around southpaw and tricky, it's just a general. That's just a blanket statement that's not enough. Like you just can't be a southpaw who can run around, and because you're not going to land any punches. So you just got to run around, and you might last the distance, but you won't win the fight. And that's another thing with Canelo. He'll be happy to go the distance if he's been in the rounds. He don't care. No, he don't take. You see Canelo. He don't take any risks. By the way, here's a fighter who gets a lot of stoppages, who very rarely takes any risks. So, if he's hurting you or stopping, and the power in his punches and the accuracy in his work stops you from being adventurous. So again, Billy darts in with the tackle and walks onto a right hand, or Canelo leans back and throws that right uppercut through. Then that stops Billy's straight away. Billy, because he's a good thinker, he'll go, I'm not doing that again. And then you ride in your corner, then they got to do their job and say, listen, you got to go again, mate. And you're thinking, I can't do that, it didn't work. And they're saying, yes, you've got to do it though. Sometimes you need that. And so, yeah. But whichever way I look at it, I can't see how he wins. I can't. And I'm a Billy Joe Saunders fan. And I have been for a long time, but I just can't see it.
Yeah. In some ways, to kind of conclude, would we say that Billy Joe needs to do exactly what his mate Tyson Fury done in the second fight against Deontay Wilder, and give him that element of surprise and put it on Canelo Alvarez?
No, that wouldn't work. I guess so. If you're thinking you can't outbox him, you can't. No, there's no way I'm going to beat him on points. You know that the theory about Canelo never loses in Vegas, then maybe you gamble. But that gambling thing sounds great. Gold on your shield and all that, but maybe you do that after 7 rounds and you're behind. If you're obviously losing, maybe. But if you do that, straight away and just go right at him and try and put him by surprise, Canelo's not Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder is just an athlete with a big punch. That's all he is. He's not a boxer. He's a tremendous athlete who would know just by his physical stature. He's long, lean, athletic, great move, real fast feet. But he doesn't know how to move his feet. Doesn't know how to throw a punch. I know he's an Olympic medalist, but doesn't know how to throw a proper punch. I don't think Wilder, as good as he is, can jab. But he can throw a good jab. Actually, doesn't know how to jab. There's no thought process behind his work. All it is just once I hit you, I'll knock you out. So I don't think that would work. I didn't think it'd work I didn't think that it'd work with Tyson Fury, but he kept telling us he was going to walk through it. I thought, why would you want to do that? You're mad. That's not going to. Why would you want to just take a risk of getting hit by a big puncher? But he obviously seen something because he's intelligent, and maybe Saunders sees something about. But I don't see him trying to. He's a different fighter, Canelo. He's technically brilliant, where Deontay Wilder obviously is not technically brilliant. So I don't see it. I just don't see how he can beat him that way. Did you see it? Did you see how he can? Do you see it or?
Hey, one thing I would say is, look, there's always a chance. Nothing is.
Come on, now. I understand you got to sit in the fence a bit because you want to get access. I understand that. I do understand that. I'm not going to put you on the spot. That's not your job. It's your job to do that to me. But everyone's got a chance. Of course they have. But then, everyone's got a chance. But you can say, well, let's put anyone in with the
Mauricio Lara, Josh Warrington.
Oh yeah, that's a freak of nature, that is. And it's true. Boxing. Listen, Steve Cruz beat Barry McGuigan. That was a huge shock. Obviously the sun and the heat had to factor the pay in that, and Cruz was better than what his record suggested, but still, but they're few and far between them sort of thing. You can't put a prediction on a fight of crazy things happen in boxing because you put a bet on someone being biting your ear off or something like that. Then things can happen, but you have to judge a fight if the eras work out. If he's anywhere near the best, if anywhere near their peak, their prime, then you have to say, well, the best of him beat the best of him. That's how you should come up to a theory of who's going to win a fight. Will the best of him be the best of him? No. The best I've seen of Saunders doesn't beat the best I've seen of Canelo. And I think everyone would have to say that. I think the best you see of Saunders might give Canelo a few thinking problems, but I just can't see how it would beat him, and that's it. So, and then you're obviously hoping that the best of him doesn't turn up, but then I'm not sure if we're going to see the best of Saunders. I think he might have missed that peak of inactivity and having fights that are really underwhelming under his level. And I'm not sure whether he's on the other end of his career, which still makes him good enough to beat most people, but maybe not Canelo. And I don't think Canelo might be past his peak, Mike, because he's been boxing for 15, 16 years 17 years as a pro, maybe now. How long can he keep going on at a peak? He looks as good as ever as it goes because he doesn't take a lot of damage in these fights. That's the truth. And obviously he took enough punches in the Golovkin fights, to last. Okay, so big punches to last a lifetime, but it didn't affect him. And some people are just built differently.
How disheartening is that?
No, go on. What's that?
How disheartening is that when Golovkin throws his biggest shots, and Golovkin is a big puncher at middleweight, and Canelo eats them up and keeps walking forward? You were a fighter. How discouraging and disheartening is that?
Well, I couldn't punch to save my life, so you're asking the wrong person. Punches.
Wrong question. Yeah.
What is disheartening, though, and it's the same sort of thing, is when you do something that works. So it's working for you, but it doesn't work in the fight. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work in the outcome. So you got a plan in place. There's, you know, a loose plan of how you're going to approach in a fight. And then if I can just do this, this, and that, then that'll win me the fight because he can't do this. And when you do it, and then it works for you, and then he comes back with something better. And for Golovkin, obviously, you know, if I can hit him, all I need is to hit him. If I can hit him, I can stop the movement. He's faster than me. He's, you know, he's naturally more technically gifted. But if I can hit him and stop the movement, then he's mine. And he did, but it didn't work. Then that's hard. And Golovkin, to his credit, showed great fortitude and just carried on. But it's horrible when things don't work. When things work for you, but still have no effect on the opponent, and he still can't. And he counteracts with something better. It happened with Josh Kelly the other night with David Aviesian. You know, I think things were going the way he wanted it to, but they weren't having no effect. I think he was doing what he wanted to do, but they thought that they were going, and he thought that the things that he was doing were going to have effect on Aviesian, and they never. And then you unravel, and that's the problem. That's what, and it happened to me in my last fight with Freitas. So I thought, you know, if I can hit him with a jab and a right hand, the left, if I can, you know, if I can keep moving, if he can't knock me down, then you're all right. You know what I mean? And there was a couple of rounds he didn't, and I thought he was doing well, but then I couldn't stay off my feet. I couldn't stay on my feet. Sorry, I kept getting knocked down. So you're like, well, I'm not boxing. Why are you getting frustrated? And it might be the same for Billy. You know, he might be outboxing. I can't see him outboxing, but if he does outboxing for a few rounds, he's still going to have this guy stalking him, cutting the ring off, not giving him any breathing space, and hitting him. Even if he's losing a few rounds, Canelo, which I can't see that, he still hurt him, hitting him, and I don't know how over a 12-round period that's a pressure, an intense pressure that Billy's never experienced before. Now, I think if any fighter could put up with that, I think he has that sort of style to be suited to that. To be fair, but you're talking a different level. You know, he did against Lemieux. He took away the power from Lemieux with beautiful, you know, sublime footwork. He constantly moved and never ran once, which is a real difficult thing to do. And he was punch perfect in every aspect of his game. But Canelo's not Lemieux. And that was Billy's standout win in his career by a million miles. It really was. But the difference in levels from Canelo to Lemieux, and also who was he boxed in between that fight? That's been anywhere near that level. And has he looked anywhere near that good and inspired? And we've talked about this before, both of us earlier on, that, you know, I think he boxes to the level of his opponent. If that's the case, we'll see the very best of Billy Joe. But yeah, all the factors going into it don't bode well for Saunders. And I don't see how you can put any other spin on it, to be honest. Wow. I sound like a massive hater of him, and I'm not. But no, I want him to win because, you know, not because he's bitter. I like a lot of things about it. I don't like some of the things he says outside. Of course, you know, he's his own man, and that's how he lives his life. But I mean, you know, the way he boxes and the potential he has, and I like watching him. You know, I think he's a sublime boxer, and he's wasted his ability. Even though he's a two-weight world champion, he's wasted his ability for big chunks of his career. But this is the fight for him now for him to step up and show the world that how good he is.
All right. Hey, I feel like we can go on for hours. You know, I'm gonna leave it there. Barry, I'd like to thank you for your time. Good stuff on Ringside Toe podcast. I listen to that weekly, so tune into that, the viewers.
Yeah, man. Good man. Thank you.
Pep Talk, Barry Jones. Subscribe. Thank you very much.